is
7 a.m. and a half, and it's now time for the morning watch with Mr. Stokeley Marshall. Let me inform you that today the morning watch is sponsored by or brought to you by Holtz Hardware, the leader in electrical, building, and everything for the home. Also, the Ministry of Economic and Job Creation, achieving prosperity through partnership, economic growth, and sustainable development. And finally, Expo Jamaica, connecting the world to Jamaica, Thursday, April 27 to Sunday, April 30 at the National Arena and the National Indoor Sports Center. It's now time for the Morning Watch.
Holtz Hardware and Supplies for electrical, plumbing, and building items at low prices. Everything you need for the home. Rugs, decorative curtain rods, sheet set, picture frames, indoor and outdoor lights, and more. That's Holtz Hardware, St. John's Road between Ebony and Royal Place, Spanish Town, St. Catherine. Telephone 876-648-7166 or 876-648-7017. Holtz Hardware, the leader in electrical and building supplies.
Jamaica. Let us arrive alive. We know everyone has somewhere to be or someone to see. Whether you're going on a trip, headed to a party, running errands, getting gifts, or visiting family and friends. Arrive alive. Slow down. There's no rush. Look out for yourself and others. Don't let your life be a statistic. Too many Jamaicans are dying on our roads. So take time on the road. Arrive alive.
A message from the Office of the Prime Minister.
Listeners to Love 101 FM are advised that the views and opinions expressed in this program are not necessarily those of Love 101 FM.
Hello and welcome to the Morning Watch on Love 101 FM. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. A special welcome to our listeners on love101.org. And if you are overseas and on the move, US listeners can access us at 712-832-8001. And if you are in the UK, 0330-332-6541, or join us via the Love 101 FM app that can be downloaded from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. You can also check us out on or join us on Love 101 FM Facebook and YouTube Live in the main watch today. Recent changes to the Companies Act. And in the second watch, recognizing and destigmatizing those with intellectual disabilities. For our social media question, we ask, the Companies Act was amended to strengthen the island's anti-money laundering and to counter financing of terrorism. What else can be done? A pretty long social media question, but it's worth asking. And we welcome your responses. Share your responses on our Facebook or YouTube Love 101 FM Jamaica Live, and also WhatsApp comments and voice notes too. 876-997-3125. Using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll share your comments later on the program, but first, here's I quote.
Good morning, good morning. Today's I quote is a island quote, and it says, no matter how cockroach junk, him no want walk past foul yard. And the translation is, in the interest of self-preservation, cockroaches are reluctant to go past any areas where they may be easily caught by fowls. For humans, the same should apply, self-preservation being the first law of the species. So, no matter how cockroach junk, him no want walk past foul yard.
You know, there are some biblical passages that would challenge this one, but I'll leave it there for today.
That's right, leave it right there.
There's a saying that says, oh, it's a cockroach, no business in a foul fight, something like that.
Right. Mm-hmm.
To my recollection, that one. Juka, this morning you read a scripture before the program, something to do with how many times you should be beaten if you don't obey God.
All right, so that was St. Luke 12, verses 47 and 48.
So it is proposing corporal punishment if you disobey your master.
Boy, I never read the Bible, I just reading it. So,
You know what? Let us move along with the show today, my friend.
all right.
Because there are some passages in the Bible, sometimes I read them and I'm like, what? The main watch will be back after this break.
Get ready for Expo Jamaica 2023. We're connecting the world to Jamaica with over 350 Jamaican exhibits in manufacturing, exports, produce, agriculture, tourism, and services. Bring out your family and friends. Friday, April 28th, 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. Saturday and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. National Indoor Sports Center to the National Arena. Adults $1,500, children under 12, $500. Expo Jamaica. Do it, thing, support it. Hosted by the JMEA, powered by the Ministry of Industry, Investment, and Commerce. Check social media for details.
Refreshing your space should be a breeze. And at Active Home Center, we have made it easy by having what you need all in one place. Shop the largest selection of tiles, bathroom fixtures, lighting, doors, and more. Visit us at 84 Council Spring Road in Kingston or check out our newly opened location in Freeport, Montego Bay. Come speak with our in-house experts and hit refresh on your space. Active Home Center. More savings, more choices.
Holtz Hardware and Supplies for electrical, plumbing, and building items at low prices. Everything you need for the home. Rugs, decorative curtain rods, sheet set, picture frames, indoor and outdoor lights, and more. That's Holtz Hardware, St. John's Road between Ebony and Royal Place, Spanish Town, St. Catherine. Telephone 876-648-7166 or 876-648-7017. Holtz Hardware, the leader in electrical and building supplies.
Educom does it again with the mega car loan sale. 100% financing, interest rate of 6.95% and up to 10 years to repay. Hurry now and visit any of our 9 branches. Call Educom at 876-926-6973 or WhatsApp 876-559-7575 for more info. Educom Cooperative Credit Union Limited. Value through service.
Get ready for Expo Jamaica 2023. We're connecting the world to Jamaica with over 350 Jamaican exhibits in manufacturing, exports, produce, agriculture, tourism, and services. Bring out your family and friends. Friday, April 28th, 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. Saturday and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. National Indoor Sports Center to the National Arena. Adults $1,500, children under 12, $500. Expo Jamaica. Do it, thing, support it. Hosted by the JMEA, powered by the Ministry of Industry, Investment, and Commerce. Check social media for details.
They're full of life. You're full of love. They're carefree. You care more. That's why we created Child Protector, a critical illness insurance plan from Sagicor Life. It provides coverage for your child in the event of 15 critical illnesses, hospitalization benefits, life insurance, and investment benefits. So make sure your child can live life to the fullest. Apply for Sagicor Child Protector today.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. Thanks for staying with us. And for those who are just joining, welcome again. Amendments to the Companies Act were passed just literally a couple of days ago, you could say, on the 31st of March. And this was done as part of the government of Jamaica's efforts to strengthen, as it were, the island's anti-money laundering effort and to strengthen or to counter the financing of terrorism. And these are based on recommendations from the Financial Action Task Force, otherwise known as FATF. And I think as time goes by, Jamaicans will be hearing even more about FATF. There is even a CFATF for the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force. More anon. And as usual, the Morning Watch has questions. And our guest today is none other than the acting registrar and the chief executive officer of the Companies Office of Jamaica, the COJ, and her name is Shellie Leon. Good day, Shellie. How are you today?
Good morning, Mr. Marshall. I'm doing well, thank you.
A pleasure having you. Pleasure having you. Now, why was the act amended, Shellie Leon? Tell us, because we seem to have a perfectly good Companies Act. What needed to be amended and why?
Okay, so the Companies Act was amended in 2017 to introduce provisions regarding beneficial ownership. However, the amendment that was done in 2017, that was only applicable to profit-making companies or companies limited by shares, as you might know them. Also, the threshold for beneficial ownership was at 50%.
Okay, so stick up in there 1 second, Vicky. You just introduced the term beneficial ownership. What do you mean by that, if you will, please?
All right, so yes, it's great. I need to explain that term because there are several persons who indicate that they cannot see why beneficial ownership requirements should apply, for example, now to non-profit companies. So that term beneficial ownership, we have to examine it in the context of what the law says it is. So what does the law say it is? The law says, one, we can determine who is a beneficial owner by looking at an individual, so this is a natural person like yourself and myself, who controls and owns the company. Secondly, we have another assessment mechanism. One, if there's no one who both owns and controls the company, then an individual who either owns or controls the company. If that scenario is not present, you then look for an individual who owns or controls, one, a company, a body of persons, a legal arrangement, or a trust. And finally, you can also find a beneficial owner by looking at an officer of the company, and an officer would be a director, manager, or company secretary who exercises effective management control. Now, what do we mean by control? So we're looking for someone who is able to direct the company, someone who can determine the policy of the company. And when we're looking for ownership, we're looking for someone who owns 25% or more of the shares or voting rights in the company. So note though that the requirement is it could either be control or ownership. So just because the term says beneficial owner, do not think that in every case you're looking for someone with some proprietary interest in the company.
Okay, so you don't necessarily have to own the shares per se to be the beneficial owner in law.
That's correct.
Interesting. Oh, I see. So it could be someone who is just very pivotal to the management of the company. They might have this very dominant personality. I'm just creating a scenario here. And they effectively control the enterprise. It could be a charitable entity, even though they don't physically own the shares.
That's correct. And in the case of charities, as you know, the charities are usually without shares. So, you know, you may have someone who is so influential and they get everybody else to go along with what they want. So they basically run things. Yes.
So, and of course, the charitable companies, if you could just assist the listeners, these are the ones that are limited by guarantee.
Yes, these are the ones that are limited by guarantee without a share capital. So these include, for example, our churches, our professional associations.
Hold that thought, because I see where we are already upon a break. But do not lose your train of thought, Madam CEO. Listeners, do not go anywhere. This is very important. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
Breast cancer is real. Cervical cancer is real. Heart attack and stroke are real. And so are pregnancy complications. As a woman, if you are hit with one of these critical illnesses or complications, your whole life can be turned upside down. Total Woman Insurance Plan gives you real insurance protection for up to 15 major critical illnesses, life insurance, and other benefits, including free cancer screening. Get serious about your coverage. Get real protection with Total Woman Insurance Plan from Sagicor Life.
Jamaica, let us arrive alive. We know everyone has somewhere to be or someone to see. Whether you're going on a trip, headed to a party, running errands, getting gifts, or visiting family and friends. Arrive alive. Slow down. There's no rush. Look out for yourself and others. Don't let your life be a statistic. Too many Jamaicans are dying on our roads. So take time on the road. Arrive alive.
A message from the Office of the Prime Minister.
Here's why you can't afford to miss the Morning Watch.
I love listening to the Morning Watch because topics are discussed and issues are highlighted that are of major importance, which in turn edify me.
The Morning Watch, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays.
I like listening to the Morning Watch. I find it very informative. I find it very interesting. The topics that are covered are very, very wide.
The Morning Watch, thought-provoking, insightful, current. Listen for the probing questions with attorney at law Stokeley Marshall and the in-depth discussion with Reverend Dr. Dylan Toussaint. On Thursdays, the Morning Watch is brought to you by Educam Cooperative Credit Union, providing value through service, and Bashco, the store that gives you more. The Morning Watch, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. The Morning Watch is on the family station Love 101.
Every day I get bigger, every day I get better. I'm a star in that shimmer. Watch me grow, I'm a winner, yeah. Every step that I take, oh yeah. Feeling great cause I'm learning, yeah. I'm a star in that shimmer. Watch me grow, I'm a winner, yeah. La 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 la. Watch me grow with Alexa Plus.
Help support their mental development at this important stage with a unique combination of nutrients from Alacta Plus. This product is not intended to be a substitute for breast milk.
Expo Jamaica 2023. We're connecting the world to Jamaica. Support all things Jamaica. Over 350 exhibits on display. CB Food Court, Farmers Market, Gems Village, True Shake Kids Zone. 3 exciting days, 2 arenas. Friday to Sunday, April 28 to 30. National Indoor Sports Center to the National Arena. Produced by JMEA. Powered by the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce. Partners, Jampro, JPS, Scotiabank, NCB, Access Financial Services, and CB Foods. Facebook and IG for details.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. We are in the first watch. The topic is recent changes to the Companies Act. Our guest is Miss Shellie Leon. Ms. Leon is the acting registrar and chief executive officer of the Companies Office of Jamaica. Shellie Leon, thanks for being on the show today. And of course, just before the break, you are beginning to outline to us some of the components or elements as it relates to beneficial ownership, and in particular, for companies limited by guarantee, many of them include churches and professional bodies. Please continue.
Okay, thank you so much, Stokeley. So, as indicated, so the churches, the professional bodies, the Citizens Association, and organizations with the general object of carrying out charitable objectives, those would be the non-profit organizations. So, some of the main changes brought about by these amendments to the Companies Act is that, one, now all companies, including those nonprofits which previously did not have the obligation, they have to declare who the beneficial owner of the company is. Additionally, the threshold for a beneficial owner has been lowered from 50% to 25% of the shares or voting rights in the company in the case of the profit-making companies. Additionally, the registrar now has the power to vary beneficial ownership information through investigation or inspection. So previously, the requirement would be there in the law, but the registrar would not go out to check that this information was being maintained by companies.
No.
But
I want to just jump in here quickly. Chief Executive Officer of the Companies Office of Jamaica, and of course, acting registrar, acting CEO. When you mention or talk about going out to check, when you go to some of these companies, and I'm not saying that this is a good practice, but you might go to a particular, let us say a church denomination. Their office may or may not be open at the relevant time. Maybe the secretary of the company, the one statutorily appointed, is probably at home. I don't know. And they might have some documents with them. What exactly are you going to check? Are you going to go to their house if they don't have the records at the church office? In practical terms, what exactly would you be going out to check, and how would that inspection look? I'm not trying to be dramatic here, but do you need, who is going to be accompanying you on this inspection?
All right. So firstly, I will indicate that we would give 7 days notice to indicate that in 7 days, we're coming to inspect your register.
Yes.
Now, it is a requirement that the location of the register of members be indicated to the registrar. So when we give that 7 days notice, it is now up to the company to ensure, and in most cases, it's a registered office address where the register of members will be kept. So you can take those you can take the register, and remember too, the register might be in electronic format because that may be more efficient. So we're really checking the register of members to see that the membership information is entered, the beneficial ownership information is entered. So by membership and beneficial ownership information, we're talking about name, address, taxi ID number, date of birth, nationality of the members and beneficial owners. And if any changes have taken place, we would also see that in the register of members. We're going to compare what we see in that register with what exists at the Companies Office of Jamaica. Where there are any discrepancies, we're going to serve a notice and ask that within 30 days, the discrepancies be corrected.
Okay. So the next thing I want to raise with you, you having indicated that, is what benefit is there really, if any, to this new regime? Because prior to now, a professional body, a club, a church may have been living their lives quite merrily and happily, getting along quite well and serving the public, serving their members, and now suddenly this new regime is thrust upon them. What's the real benefits to them?
All right, so there are several benefits, not only to the non-profit entities, but to ordinary citizens and profit-making entities. But we start with the non-profit entities. For the non-profit entities, as you are aware, there are several non-profit entities who get grants and other sources of funding from overseas. Now, if we do not comply with these requirements that the FATF has indicated that we need to comply with, then Jamaica is currently grey listed and we could become blacklisted. What is the implication of that? The implication of that is that it impacts corresponding banking relationships, and it means therefore that nobody will be able to send money from a specific jurisdiction to Jamaica. And that you would see dovetails to the man on the street. So several Jamaicans receive remittances from relatives overseas. Now, if these relatives are unable to send money, and for the non-profits, this is often the source from which the members, for example, of a church will give their tithe. For the business person.
One second, Shellie Leon. I just want to highlight for the listeners, for the benefit of the listeners, the role and purpose of FATF, and I'm looking at their website, www.fatf-gafi.org. The Financial Action Task Force, FATF, is the global money laundering and terrorist financing watchdog. It sets international standards that aim to prevent these illegal activities and the harm they cause to society. And it continues. Time doesn't permit me to read anymore. Continue, Shellie Leon.
Right. So in regard to, for example, the non-profits, this regime is simply to ensure that they can continue doing what they do in a safe environment, and that Jamaica is perceived as a safe country, a country in which persons can invest. For the profit-making companies, they want to be able to receive payments and they want to be able to export goods overseas. If we do not have this regime in place, then you can see how legitimate persons will, with legitimate interest, will be prohibited from pursuing those legitimate interests.
Now, Shellie Leon, it's clear, well, I shouldn't say it's clear. It appears to me that the definition of beneficial ownership was widened so as to be able to include the non-profit making enterprises of which many churches form a part. Now, as it relates to that, I mean, and I'm delving into your opinion now, because you might have a church body. They are constituted as a company limited by guarantee. That's the genesis of it. But they have a church that they have that the public sees. And, just sort of politically speaking, how does a church actually say, well, this person here is the dominant one and they are the beneficial owner? Because it might have been formed by 10 persons. How do you know that this one person or these two persons are the beneficial owners when they don't own shares, but as you're indicating, they have the most, is it influence? That seems to be what you are pointing out or saying.
So they are in control. So in effect, though, all right. So for the companies,
would that be, for instance, the chairman or the chairperson?
It could be the chairperson. It could be most churches have a board. It could be the entire board, but there may be cases, for example, where the chairperson.
You know that there are sometimes you have a board or a committee, but there are one or two persons who seem to be swaying or dominating that committee or board.
So what you'd have to look to is, what does the documentation say? What is the voting right? And then you take into account what is documented, what happens in reality, and you indicate who the beneficial owner is.
So you're going to be looking at the board minutes as well then?
We may be required to look at board minutes to substantiate what has been put forward to us. So that's correct.
Yes, because board minutes can tell you a lot about who really said what. And we're totally out of time already, Shellie Leon. Any final thoughts or words you want to leave us in the next few seconds before we wrap today?
Well, we just want the members of the public to know that it will be a partnership implementing the new obligation. So we have many resources that are available. So apart from sensitization sessions that the registrar will be holding, so companies, non-profits, profit-making can contact the registrar regarding same. We've also created
any contact numbers you want to leave with us before we close?
All right. I think what may be more useful is to visit us on Twitter at ORC Jamaica, or on Facebook at Instagram.
Jamaica.
Right. Or on Facebook
at Jamaica.
Yes, or on Facebook and Instagram at Companies Office of Jamaica. And then we also have a special resource tool, www.bohubjamaica.com. And that has everything BO, including our seminars, our presentation, our form, sample forms, and there's a chat feature on there as well.
And not to scare anybody, but what's the enforcement situation like if you don't
All
comply?
right. So the sanctions and so on, they have been increased. So in some cases, in the case of an individual, it could be $1 million or 3 million. In the case of a corporate entity, it could be 5 million. But no, that is the upper ceiling. So the court will look at the circumstances and will impose a sanction. But for implementation, we'll really be working with persons to strengthen their knowledge, equip them so they know what to do. So we're more looking at voluntary compliance
as opposed to enforcement. Have to leave it there today, Shellie Leon. Totally out of time, but I want to thank you for sharing your time today on the program, because what you have said is extremely helpful and very, very valuable information. Shellie Leon, thank you for your time and for your thoughts.
Thank you for having me.
Listeners, please stay with us. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
The time is now 7:31. Just to remind you, the Morning Watch is brought to you by Holtz Hardware, the leader in electrical, building, and everything for the home. The Ministry of Economic and Job Creation, achieving prosperity through partnership, economic growth, and sustainable development. And also Expo Jamaica, connecting the world to Jamaica. Thursday, April 27 to Sunday, April 30 at the National Arena and the National Indoor Sports Center.
Are you overweight? Did you know that being overweight is a chronic illness that can lead to other chronic illnesses, high blood pressure, diabetes, chronic pain, heart disease, and even stroke? Visit Sekhmet Medical Center Weight Loss Clinic. Get a free 10-minute consultation. 876-632-3777. WhatsApp 876-518-9108. Sekhmet Medical Center, Shop 14, Bogue City Center, Montego Bay, where weight loss is guaranteed. Come see us. You'll be glad you came.
Entrepreneurs, now you've got more support in your corner. Sagicor Bank Business Resource Center, where entrepreneurs benefit from free training in business management, financial support and guidance from pros, as well as research capabilities. Sagicor Bank, in partnership with the Jamaica Business Development Corporation, brings you this first center of its kind for small entrepreneurs to develop and grow. Let's help you take your business to the next level of success. Contact Sagicor Bank Business Resource Center today. WhatsApp 876-997-3745.
Holtz Hardware and Supplies for electrical, plumbing, and building items at low prices. Everything you need for the home. Rugs, decorative curtain rods, sheet set, picture frames, indoor and outdoor lights, and more. That's Holtz Hardware, St. John's Road between Ebony and Royal Place, Spanish Town, St. Catherine. Telephone 876-648-7166 or 876-648-7017. Holtz Hardware, the leader in electrical and building supplies.
Educome does it again with the mega car loan sale. 100% financing, interest rate of 6.95% and up to 10 years to repay. Hurry now and visit any of our 9 branches. Call Educome at 876-926-6973 or WhatsApp 876-559-7575 for more info. Educome Cooperative Credit Union Limited. Value through service.
Get ready for Expo Jamaica 2023. We're connecting the world to Jamaica with over 350 Jamaican exhibits in manufacturing, exports, produce, agriculture, tourism, and services. Bring out your family and friends. Friday, April 28th, 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. Saturday and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. National Indoor Sports Center to the National Arena. Adults $1,500. Children under 12, $500. Expo Jamaica. Do it, thing, support it. Hosted by the JMEA, powered by the Ministry of Industry, Investment, and Commerce. Check social media for details.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. Let's take a look now at the newspapers to see what Jamaicans and others are saying and doing. And we have here, for example, in Loop Jamaica News, Mommy Bay in St. Anne declared entertainment zone area said to be poised for further growth, including Czech-developed housing solutions. And of course, by Czech, we're referring to China Harbour Engineering Company. We have in the Observer, NHT encourages qualified people to apply for disability grant. And more individuals who qualify for the National Housing Trust special grant for persons with disabilities are being encouraged to apply for this provision. And it continues. Listeners can take a look at that. We have in the Gleaner an interesting story here. It reads, Monroe, referring to Professor Trevor Monroe, who's the Director of National Integrity Action, NIA, publicized CRC meetings. And CRC with reference to the Constitutional Reform Committee. Director of the National Integrity Action, NIA, Professor Trevor Monroe, is pushing for the Constitutional Reform Committee to have meetings under the glare of the public and to make available to Jamaicans decisions, those and many other stories in our various news sources. Now, of course, we're reading for you some of the feedback from our Facebook, YouTube, and WhatsApp question, which is, the Companies Act was amended to strengthen the island's anti-money laundering and to counter financing of terrorism. What else can be done? Yes, it's a long question, but we invite your comments and your responses. If you haven't done so yet, leave your responses on our Facebook or YouTube. Love 101 FM Jamaica Live, and also WhatsApp comments and voice notes to 876-997-3125 using hashtag The Morning Watch. And of course, The Morning Watch will be back after this.
Campus Connection in association with ISCF Jamaica, Passion and Purity and its affiliate ministries present Pre-Exam Praise, Connect and Study with Jesus, 3rd edition. Join us on Tuesday, April 25 at 5:30 p.m. right here on Love 101 and hear from students, school administrators and other stakeholders encouraging our CXC and CAPE candidates for the 2023 exam sitting. There will be ministry in prayer, word and worship, and if anyone knows Wagwan Pan Campus, it's our exam students, so you don't want to miss this episode. That's Campus Connection on Tuesday, April 25 at 5:30 p.m. on your family station, Love 101.
No one who can allude that. Juicy. Put in a chicken patty for your little boosting. At the party specialist with something new on the menu. Cheese at the callaloo in the party too. Look at the cala party. At the time, cause you know we have to have it. Any kind of party. At the time, cause you know we have to have it. Add callaloo and cheese anytime, anywhere to any party. Beef, chicken, shrimp, veggie or soy. Cala party is here to stay. Only at Juicy, the party specialists.
Entrepreneurs, now you've got more support in your corner. Sagicor Bank Business Resource Center, where entrepreneurs benefit from free training in business management, financial support and guidance from pros, as well as research capabilities. Sagicor Bank, in partnership with the Jamaica Business Development Corporation, brings you this first center of its kind for small entrepreneurs to develop and grow. Let's help you take your business to the next level of success. Contact Sagicor Bank Business Resource Center today. WhatsApp 876-997-3745.
Jamaica, let us arrive alive. We know everyone has somewhere to be or someone to see. Whether you're going on a trip, headed to a party, running errands, getting gifts, or visiting family and friends. Arrive alive. Slow down. There's no rush. Look out for yourself and others. Don't let your life be a statistic. Too many Jamaicans are dying on our roads. So take time on the road. Arrive alive.
A message from the Office of the Prime Minister.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. Thanks for staying with us. Let's join Carla now to see how the listeners responded to the feedback question. The Companies Act was amended to strengthen the island's anti-money laundering and to counter financing of terrorism. What else can be done? Carla, your thoughts? or rather the thoughts of the public.
All right, so I have a response here from Monica. Monica said the main problem in Jamaica is not the law itself, but rather its enforcement, regardless of the parties involved. And that's the only one we have here for right now. But that's from
You
Monica.
know what, Jukal? I said your thoughts. Maybe it was a Freudian slip. What are your thoughts?
Oh, boy, I see you like to put me on the spot.
That's okay. All right. You know what? Leave it alone unless you really want to say something. We can go right into this.
No, you can continue.
Yes, of course. Welcome back, listeners, for being with us. And for those who are just joining, well, thank you for joining us. For those who missed it, March just gone was observed as Intellectual Disability Awareness Month. And if you have never heard of the phrase before, intellectual disability is used to refer to the things that limit a person's ability to learn at the expected level and function in daily life, such as language, social, and self-care skills, etc. I don't think it's a closed list, but many times we don't recognize and often end up stigmatizing persons with intellectual disabilities, which is unfortunate because they too can, in many ways, maybe unique to them, contribute to society. So what do we do to help support persons with intellectual disabilities? We have online today on the platform to discuss this mental health advocate, quite a long list of things that she's involved with, artist, activist, etc. Carla Moore. Carla Moore, good
Hello.
morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm very well. How are you this morning?
I'm fine. Happy to have you today. Now, first of all, help us by starting with a definition. We tried to do it in the opening, but you're here as the advocate. Define intellectual disability. Are we referring to the same thing that people used to call mentally handicapped or mentally retarded? What is meant by intellectual disabilities?
Yes, that is those are the same things that we're referring to. And you gave a very good definition earlier. It's a term when there are limits to a person's ability to function in daily life. So
we're talking about Down syndrome, autism,
Down
things like
syndrome, autism, fetal alcohol syndrome. Children with intellectual disabilities might have a hard time letting people know their wants and needs. They may have difficulty in communicating, and all of this is on a spectrum. So you will have people who have mild intellectual disability all the way up to profound intellectual disability. So some people will have disabilities and still be able to work, all of that type of stuff, whereas for some people, they won't be able to do things like that.
Yes. And what are some of the social and cultural norms that you think might need to be overcome in terms of addressing intellectual disabilities or persons with it? I mean, you're giving your view, others may have other views, but as an advocate, what is it that you are seeing?
Great question. One of the biggest social norms or social what it really comes down to is our perception of people living with intellectual disabilities.
Yes.
A lot of times when we encounter somebody, intellectual disabilities will very often present in childhood. So you encounter a child who's not developing in the quote-unquote normal way. There's a lot of shame that the parent might experience. They might experience a feeling of failure that they have done something
shame
wrong.
in 2023, maybe shame in 1970 or 1990, 1980, or 2023?
There, yeah, man. The stigma is still very high, and the stigma is high because the parent is aware of the things. One, they're just as a parent, when something is not okay with your child, you feel a way regardless of what it is. If there's any
The
challenge,
parent is traumatized as well.
it's difficult. Yes, but then the parent also knows what other people might say. There's a lot of, and this is not just specific to Jamaica, ideas that the mother did something wrong. It's the mother that did something wrong, and this is what caused this to happen to the child. There's a sense that it's obvious, or obvious somebody, obvious the pick me, or obvious somebody, obvious the mother, or it's the sins of the mother that's being passed on to the child, all of these things. So people have these views, and some people hold them very deeply. which, you know what, it's your view. But at the end of the day, this is a human being that we're dealing with, and those views are not going to be helpful for integrating this human into society. And so,
Yes.
is it productive? It's not productive. Then
or that it might be a childhood vaccine that caused the autism. Some people might say that, but we are already upon a break. And hold that thought, please. Listeners, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
Sardine for the chef and the beginner. Follow the one with pepper, that are the winner. Shop on supermarkets, everybody
Great sardines, follow the better flavor.
The time is just about 7:46.
Holtz Hardware and Supplies for electrical, plumbing, and building items at low prices. Everything you need for the home. Rugs, decorative curtain rods, sheet set, picture frames, indoor and outdoor lights, and more. That's Holtz Hardware, St. John's Road between Ebony and Royal Place, Spanish Town, St. Catherine. Telephone 876-648-7166 or 876-648-7017. Holtz Hardware, the leader in electrical and building supplies.
Educom does it again with the mega car loan sale. 100% financing, interest rate of 6.95% and up to 10 years to repay. Hurry now and visit any of our 9 branches. Call Educom at 876-926-6973 or WhatsApp 876-559-7575 for more info. Educom Cooperative Credit Union Limited. Value through service.
Here's why you can't afford to miss the Morning Watch.
I love listening to the Morning Watch because topics are discussed and issues are highlighted that are of major importance, which in turn edify me.
The Morning Watch, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays.
I like listening to the Morning Watch. I find it very informative. I find it very interesting. The topics that are covered are very, very wide.
The Morning Watch, thought-provoking, insightful, current. Listen for the probing questions with attorney at law Stokeley Marshall and the in-depth discussion with Reverend Dr. Dallin Toussaint. Every Wednesday, the Morning Watch is brought to you by Chris and Charles. When you think loans, think Chris and Charles. Every first and third Wednesday, the Morning Watch is brought to you by Home and Things. Home and Things, your construction finishes superstore. The Morning Watch, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. The Morning Watch is on the family station Love 101.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. We are in the second watch. The topic, a very important topic, an interesting topic, recognizing and destigmatizing those with intellectual disabilities. Carla Moore is our guest. She's a mental health advocate, among a number of other things, artist, activist, academic, etc. Carla Moore, you were saying a couple of things before the break in terms of regardless of the reason, I'm trying to summarize, regardless of the reason why the person may have this intellectual disability or why people say the person has the intellectual disability, they need to be treated with dignity and respect. My paraphrasing, am I correct? Is that what you're really saying?
Yes, you're absolutely correct, because ultimately you're dealing with a human being who has human rights. They have needs, wants, desires, all of the things that anybody else will have. And as a part of including them in society, we have to treat them in that way.
You know, I'm going to jump in here, Carla Moore, and there is, for example, at whatever level or whatever part of the spectrum, persons with intellectual disabilities, you know, in my own family, whichever person or persons. And one of the things that I know some people listening are wondering is the person going to be violent? I remember having a conversation with someone who was to provide care for a member of the family, and the question was asked, is this person violent? People have different views. I know for some people, they display repetitive behavior. You have to have a high level of patience I've been told that my patience is I was just on the weekend, I was told that my patience is at a very high level. But then I become so accustomed to it. It's like second nature. And
Yes.
I did go to a primary school where you had persons with physical disabilities. And I think that was my sort of, you could call it a baptism. So I'm accustomed to dealing with people who are not considered to be typical.
Yes.
So, but I might be unique. You have some persons out there who have not had that experience and they are worried. The person might be violent, they're going to display antisocial behavior. How will I look in public if this person sees me with this child, etc., etc., etc. So let's flip the script a bit, Carla, more, and look at it from the other person's vantage point. How does a society deal with this? Because it appears as if I have some data, but I'm not going to say it's exhaustive. For example, autism seems to be increasing. The numbers were like 1 in 250, I gather, some decades ago. Now it's like 1 in 10,000, I gather, some years ago. Now it's like 1 in 250. That's a massive shift. So we're going to be having more of this, it seems. Help society, help people to understand how to deal with this.
I'm glad you raised the issue of will the person become violent, because that is one of the concerns that a lot of people have when they're engaging people with intellectual disabilities, and it can bring a lot of fear, a lot of reservation about being out in public. Parents don't really know what to do because, suppose I'm in the supermarket and all of a sudden, the first thing is to understand why the person becomes violent. When we think about a violent human being, we often think about a quote-unquote bad person, right? So this is a violent man, a bad man, those types of things. People with intellectual disabilities don't become aggressive or violent because they're bad. They become aggressive or violent because they're overwhelmed. So a lot of times they will have difficulty understanding what's happening around them. So they have difficulty understanding what other people are saying or communicating with them. They can't communicate their own wants and needs, and they'll become overwhelmed, anxious and stressed. They also may have sensory sensitivity. So if there are a lot of lights or a particular light, there are a lot of noises, there are a lot of people around them, these things can contribute to them feeling overwhelmed. And this is when you might get that type of behavior coming out. So I want to lead with that because it's not useful for us to talk about the violence without talking about what can cause the violence. There are steps that a parent can take. So let's start from the perspective of the parent. There are steps that the parent can take to minimize that or to deal with it when it's happening, right? So one is to identify your child's triggers. Know the things that are going to trigger your child. When they go into this type of environment, they're likely to become frustrated. If it is that, they get hungry, they might become frustrated. If they're interacting with somebody who is not understanding them, they're likely to become frustrated. So then let's identify the triggers and try to handle them, try to create a calm environment.
No,
things that are not just useful for children with intellectual disabilities. It's useful for all children, right? Things like structure and routine become very important for a child with intellectual disabilities. But we can be honest with ourselves, a lot of parents don't have enough support. A lot of parents who are dealing with children with intellectual disabilities, they themselves don't have enough support to support their child. So yes, the parent will become frustrated because them don't know what to do. The picnic don't know what to do. Them have to worry for society and judge them picnic. It can be an overwhelming situation.
And I want to add financial support because these children will become adults, and even if some of them are capable of holding down a job, oftentimes the job might not necessarily be a high-paying job because of the level to which they are intellectually disabled. And so they might need continued financial support going forward. They could live a very long life, a very long time. So how do you help people to address that reality?
I think it's the way that a family would deal with any other challenge. If you have somebody in the family who is not going to be able to provide for themselves, the moment you realize that when they're young, you need to start putting things in place. So is it that I need to figure out how to, build an additional space on my house because they're going to be staying with me into adulthood.
Yes.
How do I prepare the other children in the family to support them? With intervention, training, different types of therapies, people's level of functionality can significantly increase, right? And another thing that we have to consider when we're talking about disability, the extent to which a person experiences their disability has a lot to do with the level of accommodation that they receive. If a person receives the right amount of support and accommodation, then they can usually function well. When we're talking about this, it's like, do they have therapists that understand them and know how to treat them? Do they have people around them who understand, who are able to advocate for them? Do they have people who know how to communicate with them? Are they living in a society that treats it as a priority to make sure that there are social and legal structures in place, to make sure that there are resources in place, to make sure that the cultural and family attitudes are in place to support the person, right? And I use an example from physical disability for this, right? When a person, I need to get into a building, right? So let's say I'm living with a disability, physical disability. I use a wheelchair. You don't. We both need to get into a building. If that building has steps, then my disability is going to significantly impair my ability to get into the building. If that building has a ramp, I can roll myself up the ramp and go in. So the level of accommodation significantly impacts the level at which a person experiences their disability.
Understood. It would be remiss of me to close the segment if I didn't refer to a recent article published 18th of April 2023, just a couple of days ago. The headline is "Government Urged to Drive Culture Shift in Perception of People with Intellectual Disabilities." And you are featured here, Carla Moore, as an advocate and as a lecturer at the University of the West Indies. Now, reference is made here in relation to identification cards, it would appear. Tell us a little bit about that. There was also apparently some sort of suggestion that the cards should make reference to the person as having an intellectual disability or intellectual impairment. Tell us your views on that as well before we wrap.
Sure. Yes, in the forum there was a conversation about how to normalize intellectual disabilities to remove some of the stigma. And somebody said, we put other things about ourselves on our ID cards. Well, can't we put that? If we just put that on the ID card, then people will get used to seeing it and it'll be more normalized. I disagree with that. And it's something that we discussed in the forum, because intellectual disabilities are still stigmatized, and a person having a card that puts it out there that they have an intellectual disability could create additional challenges for them. Somebody could see that ID card and go, oh, I'm not going to hire them, or I don't want to work with you, or I don't trust you to, be responsible with whatever you need to be responsible for because you have this. Plus, things that are related to a person's health status don't generally go on your ID card. You don't put the fact that you're diabetic on your ID card, right? It's not fair.
Any final thought you want to leave us, because we are almost totally out of time?
Sure. The final thoughts are, we usually think of creating change as something that happens on the highest level, and we do need that type of support. Jamaica has a Disabilities Act. We've signed up for conventions to support persons living with disabilities, but ultimately it's about how we treat each other. So if you know someone in your family who has an intellectual disability, you can change how you treat that person, and you can be the person who change how your family treats that person to improve their quality of life. And that's what I would love all of us to make.
And to just be kinder, and, well, I'm speaking personally, I'm just not self-conscious about it. To me, it's a normal person. I want to thank you, Carla Moore, for being with us today. Very interesting conversation. Thank you for your time and for your thoughts. And thank you, listeners, for being with us. Join us again tomorrow as we look at other topical and controversial issues. Visit the Love 101 FM YouTube channel and Facebook page for this and all other Love 101 FM programs. And of course, download our Love 101 app and stay connected to us. We are the #1 gospel station in Jamaica. This has been the Morning Watch. Thanks to our producer, Kathy Gale, and to our guests. I am Stokeley Marshall, handing back to Love in the Morning with Jakal.
The Morning Watch is brought to you by Holtz Hardware, the leader in electrical, building, and everything for the home. The Ministry of Economic and Job Creation, achieving prosperity. through partnership, economic growth, and sustainable development. Also, Expo Jamaica, connecting the world to Jamaica. Thursday, April 27 to Sunday, April 30 at the National Arena and the National Indoor Sports Center.